All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Fruits Basket, Season 1, Episode 6.
All right.
She knows where home is. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Home is where your heart is.
Tohru!
And it's with these bakas.
These baka boys.
Who apparently are guys.
That she's living with.
He's a guy. A guy. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
I hope you find your way out of the closet, my friend.
Because you in Narnia right now.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a long way to go. But, yeah.
But
well, we
all
get
that
this
being
episode.
said, I think we are due for maybe some more members of the Zodiac to be introduced. We had a cool introduction with Kagura recently, and then we had this kind of recent episode which reestablished some cool aspects of the narrative and the direction of Tohru's character.
Right, what she wants, yeah.
Yeah, so let's go a little bit more in the world building side of things. So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. All right.
The friends have met the Soma family, or some of them.
They met the two boys,
Some of
basically.
them.
Like, Shigure kind of dipped early.
Yeah.
That seems a little bit interesting, but we'll talk about that eventually. The big thing this episode, is we got to have a cool multi-angled perspective on who Tohru is via the best friends and their interactions with her in the past, and then also the boys, who then show that, no, they have a pretty good read on Tohru as a person because of the really powerful emotional connection that they built over a short amount of time.
Yes.
But maybe for one of them, a little bit longer than that.
Yeah, and that's there are a lot of things that this show is setting up where it's like, okay, it feels like foreshadowing for like big picture, overarching like conflicts and things like that, and sort of the direction for the story.
We're still in the prologue, if you will.
Right, exactly.
The very first chapter of the broad story.
Yep, and yet it's one of those things where I always find myself wondering, what is the broad overarching story for this series? Because it seems like it could very easily just be a slice of life. Yeah, they're at school and there's the whole thing of, okay, keep it a secret that, some of you turn into animals when I hug you, but other than that, that's, nothing too crazy, fairly straightforward.
Yeah, I think the thing that's been constantly developed, though, is pretty obvious, so we can tell that this is kind of the main source of conflict. It's that Kyo, Tohru, and Yuki are all broken in like specific ways, and they're all going to help each other.
Right.
That is the primary. That's what
the story's about. Yeah.
That is the primary story. All the other stuff is the environment and setting upon which that is going to be explored. Probably.
Yep. And what this episode got into as sort of like the, hey, what's this episode going to be about? Well, Tohru ends up telling her two awesome friends about the fact that, oh, yeah, I let it slip that I'm staying with these two boys. I'm living with them. And naturally, they're a little bit concerned. They're like,
why was that kept secret from us,
Well, yes,
Weren't
that
we,
too.
like, your super close friends?
Yeah. Oh, and even though it wasn't, like, explicitly brought up in this way, but you were homeless and you didn't tell us.
Yep, I'm really...
Didn't think that maybe we would have
yeah.
been happy to have, helped you out, even if it was a situation where, like, one of them was, poor, or one of them had a really big family, already. Like, does our friendship mean that little? And I love that they got into that, because the this show has kind of a setting that is reminiscent to me of like the superhero that needs to keep their identity a secret at school kind of a thing, even though it's not that Tohru is a superhero or anything like that, and
it's not even her secret,
and it's not even her secret, right?
No.
And the crazy shenanigans that they get up to is actually pretty freaking harmless, right? Like, it's just, oh, they can turn into animals, right? I love that they're exploring the idea of how do you bridge the gap between the fantastical and then the mundane, right? Your regular friends that you have at the school that care about you very much, and yet because of promises that you've made,
and you're now a main character in an anime,
right? And you're now a main character in an anime. You're keeping things from them,
you're
and
the
that can
mysterious
hurt.
transfer household member,
Exactly, and so I loved her friends pretty much from as soon as they were introduced.
Same.
So the fact that we got an episode with them, I'm like, yes, not just because of the, the regular life and the fantastical life and all that stuff, but just I want more of Uo and Hana.
Yes. And I loved how Uo was just like giving so much shit to Kyo this whole episode. They had so many great little things, calling him carrots, and then like, yes, and you'll dye your hair blonde, and he's like, Or he said that she should dye her hair first, and then she's like, well, then you can dye your hair. And he's like, this is my natural hair, you fake blonde.
Seeing not side characters, but seeing characters have banter with each other when they don't necessarily need to have a connection in the story, I really appreciate that. Because like, Kyo and Yuki makes sense. They're closely related, right? And they have their rivalry and all that stuff.
And they have Shigure in the midst to break up the tension.
Yep. And then they all have their connections with Tohru.
Yep.
Sweet, right?
So they're set.
Right. But what about with Tohru's friends and the Soma family?
Do they only
right?
interact with Tohru?
Right.
No, it doesn't make sense for them to only interact with her.
Exactly. Like the fact that they were like, okay, well, we'll be back again. Like this isn't just a one-time thing, because we'll still want to like check up on everything. But then also, if you guys are such close friends with Tohru, it kind of makes sense that, they might end up becoming friends with each other.
Sure.
Just spending time together.
Okay, this episode also dumped a lot of stuff on us in a very, like, kind of subtle exposition kind of way. So we now have met Haruto, I believe, and German Boy. We will get their names absolutely ironed in by the next episode. But they were very much introduced in a, like, we've seen these archetypes before.
Yep.
In fact, it's now a question of which came first, Oren or Fruits Basket, which I assume Fruits Basket definitely came first, because Oren is a bit of a joke parody deconstruction on some of these aspects.
Very, very meta about everything.
Yes.
And now, granted, that's probably an archetype, to some extent.
Oh, totally. Just that. But the idea that we see very quickly that they are not just like a pair potentially, but very different. Very different.
Yep.
The bunny quickly jumps onto Tohru. It's like, oh, then I can hug you. And it's like, oh, that's actually kind of sad. The idea of like, oh, I can only hug people that know the secret. So I might have never hugged a girl that's like outside of maybe like whatever girls he's hugged. So that's its own thing there. But then the other one, I believe it's Haruto, I believe, having this very like detective, like investigator kind of like, I'm checking up, making sure that everything's being, done well and nothing's off. And he kind of looks over Tohru and goes, okay, naruhodo. I get it.
She's normal. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely normal. No issues right there. But then like goofy moments that are redeemable, like wholesomeness things of, okay, I need you to stand next to each other and fill in the blank for me. Like, okay. I'm like, oh, is this some kind of test?
Macaroni and cheese.
And just the cold, just got it.
Like that.
And the faces they have while they're smiling, just,
because
I love it so much.
Who hasn't been at that point where you're a teenager and you're like, no, don't take pictures of me. I've got all these insecurities and things like that, and just angsty, hormonal and all that stuff.
And Yuki's wearing a dress for helping out the club.
And this guy's just like, nope, I'm here to get a picture. They said a picture. That's what I'm going to do.
Right.
Didn't say anything else about what kind of picture or what you had to be wearing. So, I've got my picture. I did my job, and now I'm done.
Yep, just wanted basically a status update because they don't use Zodiac Facebook, essentially. So, or have an email thread share list or text
They
message.
just need to make a Discord.
They need to make a Discord. Can you imagine all of them with their, like, animal profile pictures?
Oh, my God.
And like color-specific Discord roles based on their animals as well.
Except Kyo's would just be like, fuck the rat. It'd just be like an image that says that. But
just the rat with like a skull over it,
Right. Also, I gotta say, even though they gave an explanation for it later that Yuki like got his hair caught in one of the buttons or something like that, the fact that he's like, no, I'm taking this off, and then randomly for like this heartfelt, monologue that Tohru goes into about, her mom and like, when people love you and the way they show that and everything, and he's just there with the dress like hanging over his head. This show is so silly at times, but in very calm ways. Like there are ways in which Kagura as a character is a big exception to that, right? She is not calm in her silliness, but that's something where I feel like a lot of anime don't necessarily do, because there's certain expectations with anime and things like that, and there are certain things you can get away with, but it's not always necessary, right? Like the fact that it's just like, these people that are, for the most part, as far as anime are concerned, fairly normal.
Right.
That have their fairly normal situations and conflicts and, bits of joking around with each other, and okay.
Yeah. By the way, the blonde half German, half Japanese boy is named Momiji.
Momiji, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, which is funny because that's one of my favorite
sushi
places.
It's a good place.
So I saw that, I was like, oh, cool, cool.
Yep.
But okay, we have some theory time to go into.
Yeah, because there were two big things I feel like.
Let's go with the hat first.
Oh, okay, three things. Yeah. So there was the hat.
That seemed like the biggest one because Tohru specifically addressed it.
Yep.
Brought up the memory, gave us a omniscient perspective. Well, based on her perspective, really, because the face was darkened. But
probably Yuki.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. That's the thing. I have to say
the hair did like the lengthening and tapering in the front and all that.
But throw out any definitive aspect of it and just think with me for a second. It doesn't matter who it is.
It really doesn't.
Not yet.
Nope.
The important thing, though, is that Kyo stopped. Because for some reason, there was something about it that he recognized. Now, regardless of whether he's recognizing that because he's like, oh, I did that. Or he's like, oh, I know because Yuki told me about that. Or something else entirely.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I saw that hat. Remember? Because it was in the bag.
Sure. Yes.
And he recognized,
that's probably why. Yeah.
Right. And he recognized the hat, and it could be someone else's entirely.
Sure.
But the thing that's weird is the fact that this is being kept as a mystery when we, the audience, are being kept in the dark about it, and yet we know that they're very much trying to set up that it was probably, most likely, a member of the two bros, in their little rival squad.
And they even mentioned they showed both of the brothers, granted, when they were talking about it.
Yeah.
But then they did the whole thing of, imagine if you met them and fell in love.
Yep, exactly.
And then, they've probably forgotten about it as it cuts to Yuki,
Yeah.
Now one thing I will say.
Yuki wasn't listening to any of this.
Yuki wasn't listening to any of it. That's true.
So.
These sorts of things I'm generally not as much of a fan of, because usually I feel like the connections that the characters will make in the present day that I witness firsthand and stuff are strong enough that they don't necessarily need anything like that.
I mean, for some shows, yeah, but we're still learning about the past and things like that.
Totally, and having more, I'm all for having more. If anything, it's just that this. Do you get the vibe that this is kind of like one of those things of this is them saying who the canon end person is without actually saying who the canon end person is?
No. Because it's in the dark. That's the part that's weird to me. Usually in these types of stories, she doesn't know, but we, the audience, know. And that's the part that's weird, is that it could be Yuki. I believe it's about 65% chance to be Yuki, and I'd say it's about 33% chance to be
Kyo. And then 2%.
And then what about the other 2%?
Yeah.
Is that it's someone else that they both know. Or at the very least, it's someone that Kyo knows, and he's like, oh, I know whose hat that is.
Yeah.
Why does Tohru have that person's hat? So
sure.
I think the initial guess is that Kyo recognizes the hat because it's Yuki's.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But why haven't they just definitively told us?
Yep.
And I think the reason why is because it has nothing to do with the canon end meta thing and stuff like that. It actually has something far more meaningful with regards to the emotional backstory of whoever that was that had the hat.
Right, because I'm guessing it was probably something where they felt a bit of a kindred spirit with Tohru in that moment because they themselves were also down. Because again, it's the whole thing of the Momiji when he was like, "Oh, I can actually hug somebody."
Right.
That's a big deal. Like, and then in this case, it's I'm going to try and connect with you, even though I can't actually connect with you.
Sure.
Now one of the things I'm kind of curious about. There was a anime short film that basically is that story of the two people that can't interact, and the one finds the other when they're lost, and they help guide them without actually like coming up and like taking their hand or anything like that.
Little short movie to rip your heart out.
Yep, it's called Into the Forest of the Firefly's Light. I highly recommend you checking it out.
Yep.
But especially with when that film came out, I wonder if it was actually maybe some of the inspiration for it was taken from this.
I think that this is more mythic of a story for Japanese culture, so I don't think it's...
Yeah, there is something very intrinsic about the idea of if, human contact is something that we need, and if that were to be taken away, what would that be like?
Yeah, that feels too intrinsic to the human experience.
No one story can own that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also I would say that calling Fruits Basket something that would inspire that is like saying Twilight was inspired by Fruits Basket because meeting someone that can transform or something. I'm trying to say basically that like Fruits Basket is getting at something that is a little bit more of a like the premise feels something that could be attached to a bunch of different things. So
of the zodiacs or
no, the idea of the two boys and the girl, and the supernatural aspect.
Oh no,
of the
love
two
triangles.
Boys.
That's never been done before. Yeah,
right, exactly. Mm-hmm. So, and then I have so much stuff in my past. You couldn't understand me.
That's just good.
This is classic shoujo
teenage
kind of stuff,
teenage cheese. And that doesn't make it a bad thing.
No,
right?
No, exactly. I'm just saying that I wouldn't necessarily draw too much heavy stuff with regards to where things were inspired from with regards to stories and stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah.
But
so that's the hat.
That's the hat. Then there's two other things.
Yeah.
There's the picture, which I feel like is the most straightforward one to talk about because that
it's in Hatori's office.
It's in Hatori's office, and at first glance, that looks like Tohru's mom.
Yeah.
And given the fact that he has memory-altering powers, that's a way that it could have happened.
It's a memory.
Yep.
It is a picture, which means...
And I don't believe we know who Tohru's dad is. So, that's a thing.
So you think it's not Tohru's mom? You think it's not Tohru's mom?
What? No. I mean, okay. All right. So let's talk about it Tohru's mom?
Oh, okay.
There is the possibility that it isn't because the hairstyle, while it was the same length and everything and a similar color, it did look a bit more brownish slash blonde than actually orange.
Right.
That's something that could just be the lighting in that picture or any number of things.
Fuzzy.
And the fact that it was fuzzy, like also it could be all sorts of things.
Sure.
It was in a weirdly lit room. Who knows? But if it is Tohru's mom, that would definitely be very interesting. Tohru's mom has seemed a little bit mysterious and almost like a stray cat, if you will. So I like the idea of there being some exploration connection point or something there.
Yes.
If it is just a random lady, then why would it be being focused on?
There's also this theme of things being inherited, and there's an aspect of, potentially that the mother, like you're saying, was connected to the family and thus then knew the secret. So maybe that's, why she would have had to be memory erased by someone like Hatori.
Right, because we have been told there was a point where people found out that of their secret.
Stuff happened.
And it was taken care of, right?
Yes.
Who knows how that would have
True.
happened, and I don't think it would have been. I think when they mentioned it, they might have actually mentioned that it was like someone that was close to their age, like Yuki and Kyo's age.
Oh, maybe.
I'm not sure.
We can go back and check that at some point.
But so I'm curious what the situation is there. But if it is Tohru's mom in the picture, then we could start exploring the idea of who's Tohru's dad.
Sure.
Because that isn't something that we need to get an answer to necessarily, but if we did, okay.
Yeah. One of the things that I get the vibe of with regards to this is that we might be subtly moving more and more away from the idea of this being maybe a hard romance story and moving more into the drama side of things as the family gets more and more introduced.
Sure.
And this is how I want to tie things into the weird Shigure, maybe Akito interaction there. That felt almost a bit okay. Bear with me here.
Yeah.
But it felt a bit like Cloak and Dagger.
Right.
And then
yeah.
Kingdom Hearts, the plan is going perfectly. But
the darkness will win out.
But you don't understand. Tohru is even a better person than you are.
Right. She is of the light and all that.
Of the moon. And I'm like,
yeah.
Okay.
If this were a different series, that is absolutely what I would think was going on there. The only reason why I think
there's something else. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. The only reason why I'm thinking there's something else is because this is Fruits Basket, right? We haven't had anything crazy like that. At most, when I think of like dramatic conflict and stuff, I think of it as there's the maybe
stuff with the grandpa. And the family
sure.
Yeah.
Or the set in their ways head of the Soma family that causes issues for Tohru, and then it's the kind of thing of they're going to try and our secret, so then we're going to try and exercise some control over you or wipe your memories or something like that. And then you have the good old fashioned coming of age young people that have to row fight the power and show their curmudgeony old folks that that they're being closed-minded and stuff.
Yeah, and that's the part where things felt weirdly enough kind of odd for me. So I have some world building theories to get into. Ones that we've already mentioned before, now ones that I'm feeling a little bit about. Like I need to adjust them a little bit. Shigure went to this person and we never saw him again in the episode. It's almost logical to deduce, maybe, that he never came back to the house. So he maybe had to go a long distance in order to see this person. That makes me think that it's more likely than Akito, like you were thinking. Because if they're the head of the Soma family, well, they wouldn't be on the property. Literally.
Yeah. The whole point is that this is a separate
separate spot. Exactly.
Yeah. And I want to say that I'm not 100% confident about this, but I'm pretty sure that in one of the earlier points when we saw this figure, they were specifically named as Akito. But I'm,
that sounds
85% sure about that.
Sounds like it could be right. I just might be forgetting. Operating on the idea, though, that it is Akito, the part that's weird, though, is the fact that Shigure's message and the stuff that he brings to Akito is something along the lines of how this isn't going to go the way you think.
Right,
and Akito then wants this to fail.
Yeah.
And what is this?
I'm guessing it's just Tohru being at the house and knowing their secret. And it's the thing of, like the way...
What is that? How does that succeed, then?
Well, the way I would think that it would go is that usually I would think that it would be something where the head of the family wants to be able to get people within the family to behave a certain way, to do something that they want to do, to fall in line to whatever, right?
To comply with their desires.
Right. And Shigure's house is basically the house for the wayward, rebellious people, right, within the family. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's like, okay, I'm going to use Tohru's presence as basically a way to get into the hearts of the people over there. And then if I do something later, by manipulating Tohru, I can manipulate them or something like that, right? Like getting Yuki to become more comfortable with being part of the Soma family.
Yeah, that actually triggered the the theory that I was going to basically adjust a little bit on here, based on this here, is that Shigure kind of had a not so trustworthy smile at the end of the whole thing there. Mm-hmm. And you said the idea of Tohru being manipulated so that Yuki and Kyo, and not necessarily Shigure then, if he's
maybe, but
kind of doing some kind of
game he's a grown up, it's
but primarily the two boys who are a bit on the outs in their own weird way with the Soma family to be compliant.
Right.
What if that's the thing, though, is that some aspect of this was set up and Shigure's house is kind of the natural place that Kyo and Yuki would eventually both take residence at. Okay. Yeah.
I like. Okay. So
go for it. Yeah.
What I got from that is that Shigure was basically being combative, and that's why we saw the sort
banter,
of
maybe.
Right, and that's why we called it almost like a Kira Yoshikage, or not Kira Kotomine kind of look, right? Mm-hmm. With like the shadows and the smile and everything like that.
He full on smirked with like
and that the only way that I can see that as being a thing that doesn't go into some hard direct conflict is that it's we're family and we don't get along, and I get to basically stick it to you, right? I get to say, this isn't going to work. You're done. You lost, right? This, it's not going to go the way you think, and then you can have that sort of like cocksure smile, right? Because how often does he get to basically talk smack to the head of the family?
Yeah, he says, "I know I always ask for the moon." The other guy.
Yeah.
The one Shigure is talking to.
Right.
Yeah, and that's when he smiles, which is interesting here, because if he's following that, or if he's saying because Tohru is a much better person than you are,
right, then it won't go the way you want. Yeah,
he's saying, I know I always ask for the moon. The way that, in the broader perspective, ties into the general stuff of the episode is that they make a point of how Tohru doesn't ask for the moon.
Right.
Drawing a direct opposite between this character and Tohru.
Sure.
Basically saying one asks for the moon, the other doesn't. Mm-hmm. One is demanding of a specific ideal, a lofty thing there, and then the other is not.
Doesn't ask for enough, yeah.
Right. Do you want to hear the crazy theory, though?
Okay.
This is the one I'm waiting until like the end of the discussion here.
Go for it. I'm pretty much done.
I want to bring up the idea that the moon is an actual, like, not accidental metaphor here. Because the Dr. Hatori was supposed to check up on them once a month. A lunar cycle. Kyo has an alternate form.
All right.
Okay?
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I get it.
The moon and the sun. The sun and the moon is a very clear, like, theming of the way the characters are portrayed. One is hot, one is cold.
Sure.
That's a thing that's been done multiple different ways in this show already.
But the name's Yuki, not Suki.
I know. But I want to bring up the idea, though, that maybe there's something that's bigger at play here, and we haven't gotten into the desires of characters that are in the deeper, more connected aspects of the Soma family, because it's not relevant to our main cast, or specifically Tohru yet.
Okay.
But as she becomes more roped into the Soma family, that's where the conflict is. Mm-hmm. The conflict is that one of them seeks the moon.
Literally or figuratively?
It doesn't matter what that is.
Okay.
I'm just basically saying that's my crazy theory. Now I'm moving aside to the reason why I think it's more grounded of a theory than actually just nonsense.
Okay.
Is that they drew a direct opposite between this character, who's, like you say, probably Akito, and Tohru.
Right.
So what does it mean in this story to want the moon? If we know what it means for Tohru to not want the moon, meaning she's not going to make those demands of other people, right?
Sure.
She's not going to burden them with her stuff, basically.
Yeah.
wouldn't the ultimate person that needs to be saved by the goodness that is Tohru, the sun, if you will,
Yep. Is the person that's the
one
opposite.
that personifies the moon, the one that has the opposite side, the one that will burden all with their desires.
Yeah, and also they're set up perfectly to be if there is an true antagonist of this series, and it's not just the random mean girl at school, then yeah, it would make sense for it to be the head of the family.
She was pretty helpful to Yuki, actually, by assembling the girl squad and providing wall of...
That's true.
You shall not pass!
Right.
No touch! Even teachers were going after Yuki.
Well, they just wanted to...
They just wanted pictures.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, really? Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah,
that's my thing, yeah.
I like it. I like it. And given the fact that kind of the thing that's being contested here is family, right?
Yes.
Both from the standpoint of
family.
Yeah. Oh God. Of the, if the head of the family is the antagonist, right? But then also Tohru, the one who hasn't had family and then is able to get it, right? And then Kyo, who's felt on the outs from the family, Yuki, who doesn't, want to be a part of the family, right? Mm-hmm. And then them all forming this family of their own, this found family thing in Shigure's house, right?
Yeah.
I like the sort of thematic elements for that.
Right, that would threaten the structure of the nuclear family because it's basically saying, hey, we're forming a joined, family
it's
here.
like a nega situation of when Toru's grandpa was like, hey, you can come back and live with us now.
Oh.
It's something where their family was put in jeopardy as a result of someone else that's like, all right, come on back.
Sure.
And for the Soma family, I could definitely see it being a thing where, especially if Yuki is because he's so gifted and whatnot, he has certain prospects or things that they want him to do within the family as like a unit. Mm-hmm. If suddenly he buggers off to Shigure's place and, he'll come back in a month or two. Oh, he's not? Oh, there's this other girl that,
yeah.
Maybe he'll get his heart broken by her and then he'll come back for good.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Oh.
I do honestly think that one of the best ways they could have the conflict resolve between Kyo and Yuki is to have a moment where Kyo is needed to basically save Yuki, the one that's stronger than him. And then we could have a damsel in distress moment, and it's all been properly foreshadowed.
It isn't actually Oren,
But it could be.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
Oren just casually admitting Fruits Basket supremacy by taking all of its archetypal characters and being like, we just took. Why don't we take their cast and put it over here?
Yep. Only thing I'll say is that I want more of and Hana-chan.
Yes.
Just being present in the series because they are a ton of fun, and I feel like they can add a lot to the dynamic of the two boys in Tohru.
True. Especially since this episode basically said, no, they are not shtick characters. They are more than that.
Right.
This was the episode that kind of said, no.
Yeah.
No. They started out as that.
Right. They're not
but they're more than that.
They're not going to be the two buddies, or the two friends that are at the regular, non-supernatural high school that then get completely forgotten once the supernatural elements are introduced, right?
Yeah.
They're sticking around. They're for keeps.
Yeah.
But and the whole thing of that, it's almost like they're giving away a bride or something. That was
yes.
That was beautiful.
I felt the same way. It just touched me right here. Yes. The wave report though is getting more and more accurate.
Yeah.
Y'all should be very worried about Hana-chan.
And also
because
Tohru.
She said she's going to investigate the not so good vibes she's been getting from the rest of the Soma
family. She specifically
family.
pegged you guys as cat and a rat.
No, she doesn't want to peg them. That's the rest of the class. That's it.
But also, Tohru, when you have a secret, generally saying out loud, don't worry, I won't tell them about you know what.
Yeah.
You kind of just told them that there's a secret.
You played yourself.
Yeah. So,
bless your pure and innocent heart.
Indeed.
Your friends are probably not going to be the kind of people who will be like, oh, we can't be friends with you now because you have a secret.
Yeah, they'd be like, oh my God, Toru's keeping a secret from us. That's not her being homeless, hopefully. I never thought this day would come.
If you ever need to talk about anything, we're here for you. I'm really, family. It really does come down to family.
Exactly.
Yeah. So y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time.